Hey guys and gals, want to do a video. We've had a couple people asking us about the process of going through getting the CDL to get into expediting. There's a couple different avenues you can go depending on what you're wanting to drive, whether it be a tractor trailer, straight truck like we drive, or a cargo van. So we want to tell you the process we went through, since I have a Class B and Jason has a Class A. So we can tell you the process we went through, kind of give you some tips and pointers on where to go to find out what you need to do to get your CDL. So that's what today's video is going to be about.
So when I decided to get my CDL, I decided to go all the way, get my Class A, tanker, hazmat, doubles and triples. The only endorsement I didn't get was hauling passengers endorsement. But the way I did it was I just basically downloaded the book onto my phone from the government website, and I just studied the book. I read that book probably 4 or 5 times, and then I used a lot of practice tests that you can find online. If you do a Google search and type in your state CDL practice tests, you can find a lot of different tests out there that you can practice with. So once I did that, you know, I went in, I passed all my written tests on the computer, and then I found a guy in Texas that what he does is he has a truck and a trailer, and he basically rents his service out for half a day for you to go take your test in his truck. And so I paid him, I think it was about $500, and he took me down to the DMV or DPS office, and then I took my test, and I passed my test and got my Class A license. Now, of course, I didn't have any experience driving Class A, so I wasn't going to be able to get a job, you know, driving a tractor and trailer. But I knew it would at least open up some doors for me in the future. And this was before we even decided to get into expediting. But that's how I got my CDL.
And when we decided to do this, Jason got his CDL a few months before I did. Now, since we drive a straight truck, really all we need is a Class B to drive this. So I didn't feel the need to go in and be trying to get my Class A. Plus, we didn't want to spend another $500 for me to go with this guy to try to get my Class A. So I just got my Class B. And what we did, like Jason said, you know, you can go to your state CDL, you know, just Google CDL test for your state. You can download the book to study. It's going to give you all the information you need for the test. So that's basically what we did. I studied that for about a month. And then what we did is we went to Penske and we rented a CDL truck. Now, you have to take your test, you have to take it in the type of vehicle that you're going to get your license for. So we went to Penske and we rented they have CDL trucks there that we were able to rent. They did give us a little bit of a problem with it at first, and Jason talked to him about it, and they ended up letting us rent it for me to go take my test. But that's an option if you want to go and do that. So we rented that. I was fortunate that the company Jason worked for, they had straight trucks. So he had, like I've told you before, took me out, let me practice backing, you know, everything, driving, everything I needed to do for the test. So I was pretty comfortable with that, you know, doing the air brakes, things like that. So another thing that benefited me is, since Jason had already taken his test, we went to the same place that he went to take his test for his license to get mine. So he already knew the course that they were going to take me for the driving test. So a couple hours before we were scheduled to take my test, we went out and he took me around, and I practiced driving around that and practiced doing what they were going to ask me to do on the test. So that helped me out a lot. So, you know, the Class B, it's a little less involved than the Class A. One thing you can do, I know a lot of people don't have access to straight trucks to kind of practice, but what you can do, an option, is, you know, U-Haul, Ryder, a lot of places rent U-Haul trucks. Now, they're not the big 40-foot like what the straight truck is that we drive, but you know, you can go in there and go rent the biggest straight truck they have for a weekend and take it out practicing, you know, rent it for the weekend and just go out, drive it around, practice. And, you know, that's going to probably be the closest thing you can just go out and rent with a regular driver's license to practice in. Obviously, you can't do that for an 18-wheeler. There are some options if you're wanting to go for your Class A. You know, they do have schools out there, truck driving schools. Now, those schools are very expensive. They run anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to go and take do those schools. And you know, I'm not knocking those schools. If that's what you want to do, it's probably a good thing to do if you have the money for it. But, you know, if you're just going to get out here into a straight truck, you know, we know one of the couples that follows us, you know, her husband has a Class A and she was going to go for a Class A, but they're only going to be driving a straight truck. So, you know, I kind of talked to her about it, and, you know, I'm really glad that they decided that, you know, she's just going to save the money when she doesn't really need a Class A, you know. All they're driving is a straight truck, so she's just going to go for her Class B. And, you know, like I told her, you know, once you get out here, if you decide you want to get your Class A, then go for it. But why spend the money on that at first? One, you don't know if you're going to like it out here, and two, you don't need a Class A to drive a straight truck. So that's something to think about when you're thinking about what you're going to drive and getting your CDL.
So there's a couple ways you can go about getting your Class B. I'll tell you one way. My cousin, he got his Class B was he had filled out an application for a place that delivered ice cream. What they would do is they would deliver ice cream to grocery stores, and he would have a certain route. And this company, they hired him on, and it was they let him use their truck to take the CDL test in. And then, of course, once he passed his test, they hired him on as a full-time driver. But during that time, while he was taking his paper test, he got to ride around with another guy and kind of work with him. And, you know, once he got his permit, they let him drive the truck through the route. And, you know, so that's one way you could go about getting your Class B license. Another way is even become a school bus driver. You know, we know quite a bit of couples of the husbands that had Class A's, and the wives were bus drivers. You know, they did school bus. Yeah, they got their Class B, so they had that experience of driving a long vehicle and through cities and stuff. So, you know, they basically, you know, they had their Class B, and then they both moved into expediting as teams. So that's another way you can go about, you know, getting your Class B license. There's a lot of states out there, like I know Texas, there's a lot of people who they just rent their truck to people so they can take their tests. But we had a subscriber ask us the other day how to get her CDL, and so I started looking in her state, which was Tennessee, and I couldn't find anybody that did that in Tennessee. But like in California, there's people that do it. I found places in Oklahoma. So I mean, if you get on Google and just you know, Google how to get your CDL in your state, Class B CDL help, or, you know, you might find somewhere in your state. You can also check maybe Craigslist. People might put Craigslist ads, rent my truck to take your CDL kind of thing. So there's a couple different ways you can do that, you know, just finding out what's available in your state. But if you want to go get your Class A, you know, you don't have to pay that $3,000 to $5,000. You could go to some place like Stevens Transport, where they train you for free. They can help you get your CDL. Then you're contracted with them for at least a year to help pay for that CDL. You know, if that's a route you want to go to try to at least just get your Class A. So in case expediting doesn't work out, you know, you have your Class A to fall back on.
One thing too, when you do decide to go take your CDL, no matter if you're going for your Class A or Class B, at least that's how it was in Texas. I'm sure it's not too far off in other states, but you have a written test and you have a practical test or a driving test. Now, you normally don't take those same tests on the same day, So basically what we did is we went in. You didn't have to have an appointment to take the written test. You basically just go into the DPS office, tell them what you're there to take, and they get you set up on a computer to take that test. So at first we took our written test. Now once you take and pass that written test, you have a certain amount of time before you have to take your driving test. Do you remember how many days that was? I think it was maybe like 60 to 90 days or something.
I don't remember exactly.
That you had after you took your written test before you had to take your driving test before that written test expired. So you can always go in and take the written test if you're ready to do that before you go in and take your driving test. Now, another thing with endorsements, like Jason talked about, when he went and took his written test, he did his basic written test to get his license, and he did all the endorsements the same day. And you can do that, or you can do like what I did. I went in and took my written test to get my Class B license, and then after I got my actual license, after taking the written and the driving test, I got my license. I went back in, I think the next time we were home, and actually, or no, it was before we went out, I went in and took my hazmat endorsement, and I got that. And then I think a couple months after that, when we were home another time, I went in and took my tanker endorsement and got that. So you don't have to do the endorsements right at the same time you do the main written test, or you can. It's up to you. You know, I just felt for me it was enough studying just for the main test to have to worry about doing those endorsements. So that's something you can go back and do in the future as well.
Now, most expediting companies require, I think it's 6 months experience driving a CDLB in order to get into these straight trucks. There's a lot of different ways you can get your CDL, though. You know, take a look locally. You know, you might be able to find a local job where you're home every day, just to get the experience. You know, I know Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, I think they all offered to help get your CDL, and then work a route for them. Maybe some bread delivery companies, any kind of local delivery job that has straight trucks that they deliver product in. You know, they might be able to help you get your CDL also. So, you know, you might not be able to get right into expediting once you get your CDL, but if you're looking for a way to get experience, you know, this might work out for you. You know, finding one of those places that will help you get your CDL and get you a little bit of experience driving a route every day with somebody that, you know, has their CDL. So, there's a bunch of different options out there. If you have your own experience, or if it's been different from anything we've mentioned, you know, share down on the bottom so other people can read. I know each state's different. You know, some states are harder than others, and Texas for us was really easy. It was really easy for us to get our CDLs. So
there's some states that even, you know, with Texas, we didn't actually have to go around and do a pre-trip for our test.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of states where you actually have to go out with the officer and point out everything that you have to check on a pre-trip. So that's kind of an extra step you have to take. We were fortunate in Texas, we didn't have to do that. So,
but there's tons of YouTube videos out there too with pre-trips.
Absolutely.
Find a good one and just watch it over and over and over until you learn it. And if you do want to go out and rent a truck to go get a little bit of experience driving a bigger vehicle, like Heather said, there's Penske, Ryder, maybe even a U-Haul. They have non-CDL trucks that are just as big. The only difference is the suspension on them of what they can carry. But you can rent a non-CDL box truck that has a 24-foot box on it and get some experience with that. You know, they're a little bit pricey, probably about $75 to $100. You're going to pay diesel for the thing, and they might charge a per mile of how much you drive. So I wouldn't go driving it from one state to another to go practice it, and you might end up with like a $500 bill.
Yeah. But that is a way to get some experience.
You know? Yeah, that's
absolutely,
an option to get some
experience. And $100 is cheaper than you know, $3,000 to $5,000
for a school.
And that school's only for Class A. You know, there is no school to take to get a Class B license. So,
well, there are some, but
are there?
The place
I didn't even know that.
The place I found in Tennessee, I think it's in Memphis. They offer Class A or Class B, but
there you go.
$5,000, and who wants to pay that?
Absolutely, especially for a Class B. You do not need to pay that kind of money for a Class B.
That's crazy amount of money, especially as easy as it was for us to get it. I could never see paying that much. So.
Now, one thing too I want to mention, you know, some of you may be wanting to get into cargo van. You know, we don't know a whole lot on the cargo vans, and I know there are some cargo vans, I think you need a different license. There may be like a CDLC that you have to get for that. We do have a couple folks that have YouTube channels. You can check out Tim Expedites, Expedite Travels. You know, they both drive cargo vans, and they can answer some questions on that, or leave some comments down below for y'all on maybe if you have to get a different type of license for a cargo van.
Yeah.
So, but we hope this helped answer the questions about the different types of CDL licenses that you can get into expediting or for expediting. You know, just wanted to kind of share you our experience, and just keep in mind, you know, look up your state and what they require for you to take your test, because it may be different from what we did. So if y'all have any questions, like Jason said, you know, always leave them in the comments, email us, find us on Facebook. We'll be happy to help y'all out. And until the next video, bye-bye.